cultural program in the just after this session. So as quickly as possible. Sorry for this. However, since we know you and we know your area of scholarship and specialization.
MS Subbulakshmi gave her last kacheri to this conference. After that, she never sang anything. She was already sick at that time when we said it's a Vedanta Congress. She said, okay, I will do that. And she sang almost for a whole hour, though she was always gasping for breath. So that is one thing, which I remember most. And ever since then, I have always been a regular attending these conferences here whenever, whoever may be the departmental chair here. Anyway, now time is running out. Let us start with the Varadarajan's paper.
My pranams
Can
to
Ramanuja
every one of
engage the
you.
modern world? Yeah.
Sometime in November, December 2015, I wrote to Francis Clooney about the project on Sri Ramanuja that we would like to initiate. In one of the correspondence, he asked this question to me: can Sri Ramanuja engage the modern world? So I thought I would take it up as a topic for discussion today. And Professor Mishra thought that this note is highly speculative and too broad-based, without much of focus. But given the nature of the topic, it cannot but be speculative and exploratory. So I will make some speculative attempt to deal with this theme, which is not a well-trodden subject so far. We are living in a way in a modern world. Increasingly, the world is getting shaped by the modern thought. It is also a political quest. The modern West thinks that the modern thought has the moral basis, and if need be, they can use power to expand this moral world throughout the universe. So it is a civilizational mission which the modern West has taken up upon itself. Around 1800, India came into contact with this modern thought. I think in the eastern part of India, in Bengal, many of the social thinkers were confronted by the dawn of the new world and the new knowledge. And if you look at this Bengali intellectual tradition of the 19th century, it was a period of tremendous confusion. They belonged to a tradition which was increasingly being challenged by the modernity. And they were trying to respond. And they were trying to respond in a way to take on the modernity. But what happened, I will briefly explain. In the modern period in the West, to the extent I know or I understand, they have gone back to ancient Greek thought and took up some of the important elements, reformulated that to suit the needs of Europe of those times. Very similarly, the Indian thinkers thought, challenged by this new knowledge, they may have to go back to the Vedantic thought, try to reformulate it, make a restatement of that, so as to suit the new emerging India. That is a way they would be able to handle the modern thought. But what I understand is that, just like during the period of Shankara, when Buddhism was at its peak, or other schools were at its peak, from what we hear, Shankara had to absorb certain elements of Buddhism as part of his philosophical understanding. Very similarly, I find when you try to resurrect the Vedanta, come out with a restatement of the Vedanta to suit the needs of India of those times or the current times, somewhere they try to absorb the elements of modern thought and incorporate that in the Vedantic viewpoint. So we find today the political establishment of India, the intellectual establishment of India is very much a reflection of the modern thought. Modern thought has become the framework for our public discourse. But very similar thing we also observe, even Vedanta has now been brought under the ambit of this modern thought as its framework. This I refer to as the emergence of Neo-Vedanta, that in trying to reformulate it in its pure form, pure within quotations, most of the thinkers from Rajaram Mohan Roy onwards, Vivekananda onwards, Radhakrishnan, they wanted to formulate Vedanta in a way which will be stripped of all the so-called unwanted elements or accretions that has happened in history over a period of time. In these unwanted accretions will include religion, rituals, whatever. So you find in the attempt to put forward a pure version of Vedanta, we get into number of difficulties. Even Swami Vivekananda admitted that the practical application of Vedanta he wanted to work out. But I don't think that agenda is complete or is taken forward. I will come to that little later. Now you find that this stream of thought, Vedantic thought, which has become the intellectual response to the Western onslaught, has come down to in the 20th century also, for example, Radhakrishnan and others. And Jawaharlal Nehru makes a very important statement which needs to be discussed very thoroughly. He says, this Vedantic idea, I agree, it is one very high form. But the Indian world does not reflect this Vedantic view. The Indian society does not reflect the Vedantic view. There is an asymmetry. There is a split in the Indian personality. The thought is something, the reality is something else. They don't go together. So he wants to carry the debate further by saying that whatever reform you are adopting in the name of Neo-Vedanta, you may have to take it logically forward by reformulating India's world, restructuring the India's world, by restructuring the Indian society. And to which Kanchi Paramacharya responded in one of the requests made by the editor of Bhavan's journal, but that debate goes on in a slightly different one. So what I am trying to say is, this Neo-Vedanta or the restatement of Vedanta to suit the modern times has come very heavily under the influence of the modern liberal thought. The secularism, if it doesn't want to accommodate religion in public life, the extreme version of pure Vedanta would also not concede any role for religion either. It goes beyond religion. Now somewhere they seem to merge together with lot of implications which I think need to be studied. Only one remark I will make and then I will come to Ramanuja part of that. Where Vivekananda finds it very difficult is that the spirituality that you come across in Vedanta and the world on the other, they cannot go together unless you have the mediating principle of religion. Now this difficulty is present very much in Vedanta, and that is the reason why somewhere the philosophy has to be bridged with religion also, if you want to bring together the world on the one hand and the spirituality of the Vedanta on the other. Now, this is a debate. We will keep it in our mind, in the background. Uh, I have made only a few statements without any explanation whatsoever. Now I will come to this question that in India itself, when we are coming increasingly under the influence of modern thought and modern institutions, our world is now becoming different. Just as Shankara had to encounter Buddhism or some other philosophical system, now you find that you cannot remain in isolation within the four walls of tradition, refusing to interact, refusing to acknowledge, refusing to see the new world which is happening in our backyard. We have to respond. If in Brahma Sutra, Shankara, Ramanuja, they are responding to the formulations of Buddhism, Jainism and all that, I think in today's context, I think we need to respond. Particularly, I will put it this way, modern liberal thought, which is trying to bring the entire world within its particular habit. Now, my approach will be, instead of taking the framework of liberal modern thought for discussion as a reference point and trying to respond to that, I would like to shift the ground. And Vasudha Narayan brought it up in some fashion, and Chakravarti Ramprasad also brought it in one fashion. That can be one particular approach. Now, I want to identify a few areas where among the religious traditions, let me try to confine or work out the framework, among the religious traditions, is there a possibility of identifying some common areas of interest, common themes, and try to listen across these traditions or philosophical traditions or religious traditions to understand more and more, so that there can be a sort of a mutual understanding and appreciation between what Ramanuja is trying to put forward and in the case of contemporary religious traditions also. 3 or 4 areas I thought I would highlight for a possible areas for discussion and all that. That is only a suggestion at this stage. We may not go beyond that. Now, one issue in Europe was this continued debate, ongoing debate between reason and faith, between philosophy and theology, between philosophy and religion. Maybe it is overdrawn. I am not totally very familiar with this entire corpus of literature, but in science and faith, like that, they are formulating in a number of ways. That religion is somewhat being looked down upon as something very inferior. Faith is something, an emotion. It is very unfortunate that even Swami Vivekananda referred to Ramanuja's bhakti as just emotion. Okay, that can be one. Now the point is, in religion, the thrust is, the essence is, you express your loyalty to the God, your God. You express your obedience to God, your allegiance to God, your servitude to God. But in philosophy, the quest is to know about Him, the knowledge about Brahman or the knowledge about the reality. So very often people think that philosophy is something much higher because you are a knowledge seeker, whereas that sort of a seeking is not there in religion at all. And this is sort of a thing which has been going on to, if I can use the word, denigrate religion without appreciating what is the role. Now, leaving this larger question aside, now in Ramanuja, I think what we find is this. He takes up this question that we have to know about the Brahman if you want to attain him in whatever form. So knowledge of Brahman is taken to be the precondition for the realization of the God or whatever manner. but he has also brought in this faith in God. And the formulation is, it is not only faith, but it is surrender to his will and servitude to him. Both Paratantriyam and Seshatvam, a devotional service to God and a complete subservience, and it is all based upon knowledge. For example, if you look at the nature of the Jivatman, Jivatman is full of knowledge, Chaitanyam, Anandam. Of course, Kartrutvam, Bhoktrutvam, let us not bring it now. But Paratantriyam is the essential nature of this Atman and Seshatvam. This Dasyatvam of the Jivatman and this Chaitanyam and Anandam of the Jivatman, they are there, the same Jivatman. They are not contradictory. That's why in the morning I mentioned that Paratantriyam is Chaitanya Karyam. Out of knowledge is born this surrender to the God. Then out of knowledge is born the servitude or devotional service to God. So knowledge is the basis of bhakti, or it is identified with bhakti, what he was trying to say in the morning. But this Paratantriyam and Seshatvam are not only the essential feature of the Jivatman, but the essential identity with the Chaitanyam itself. So that is, if you are going to formulate it philosophically that way, then you are able to reconcile this knowledge of the Brahman and this complete surrender to the will of God and devotional service. They need not be contradictory to each other. You are able to come to each other. And in Seshatvam, it may take several forms, because in Paratantriyam is Nivritti Marga. You go inward, whereas in Seshatvam, it is an outward expression. And there you are in the world. In Seshatvam, when you are going to do the devotional service to God, you are very much in the world. There is no neglect of the world at all. So you are able to pursue spirituality, and you are able to live in this world and try to do devotion, service to the divine in this world. So there is no negation, or there is no mutual exclusiveness between the spirituality and the world on it. So this is how Ramanuja is able to formulate. Now this question is troubling many people. So I think this approach, this larger philosophical understanding can be used meaningfully to resolve some of the contradictions. People keep talking about it all the time. I'll be short. The second important issue I thought on which there can be some meaningful, there should be some meaningful discussion is